Welcome to Orange County Power Players, where we spotlight the personal, professional, and financial success stories of OC's top leaders. Here's your host, Danny Flores.
Welcome back to OC Power Players, where I interview some of the most successful people in Orange County. I'm Danny Flores, your host, and today's honored guest is Geoff Koboldt, zooming in from Corona. Hey, Geoff comes from a world-class manufacturing and distribution sales and operations management expert. Geoff loves bringing his energy to work every day while bringing out the absolute best in people. A keen listener with strong emotional intelligence. His ability to connect with others has been paramount to each organization's success. His unique coaching methods and delineation of traditional org chart fosters a lean environment where employees take ownership, become customer obsessed, and insist on the highest standards. Driven by a strong sense of urgency, he thrives on massive change under fire. His calm spirit and demeanor brings peace and harmony to chaos and uncertainty. Resourcefulness, entrepreneurial, and innovative, he always searches out new ways to improve business operations and elevate best practices. Geoff inherited his get your hands dirty work ethic from his father, Richard Koboldt, who was an hourly factory worker at General Motors for 31 years. His father said to him early in his career, "Never walk into a new environment with your fancy suits acting like you're better than anyone else. Put your blue jeans on, roll up your sleeves, and get dirty with the frontline employees, the people whose buy-in and respect you will need if you ever want to be successful." Geoff has humbly lived by this motto, where you will stand, find him in the weeds per se, with employees at all levels. Very well put, Geoff.
Thanks
you so much for coming on.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
Tell us a little bit about what you do and how you're able to win your employees over and get them fired up.
Yeah, well, it's all about being a champion of people, right? Getting to the heart and soul of what motivates people. So I spent a lot of time getting into, the mechanics of appreciating people at all different levels. Common mistake that people make is they treat their team as all sort of even, right? But everybody has a different set of needs and different personalities. And so it's all about, encapsulating what motivates them, those intrinsic and extrinsic, rewards and levels of appreciation.
Right. So what do you do in your teams, and what do you guys produce or create?
Yeah, so I've held a variety of different positions through my corporate career. So let me take a step back so you can kind of make some sense of all this, right? So foundation was with General Motors, starting in operations, quality control management, inventory control management. Moved on to materials management at another company, and then went back to a small little entrepreneurial company where I had sort of 100% responsibility for the P&L and the team, and then from there became an MBA professor for 16 years, which was been sort of my side hustle to my corporate job, as well as my consulting stuff that I'm focused on now. And then from there led to a variety of different industries, from luxury products, consumer packaged goods, to electrical, lighting, to music at one point, automotive. So it's a host of a bunch of different things, but largely operations focused, manager, director, VP levels, as well as being my own entrepreneur from 2008 to 2014, which was a company that I own that sold a variety of bamboo products, largely bamboo fencing to Lowe's and Home Depot. So the reason I share all that is because each one of those situations is a different set of expectations and needs for different folks, right? From billion-dollar corporations all the way down to small entrepreneurial $4 million, $5 million companies. But at the end of the day, it's about people. People are the greatest assets, in my humble opinion, right? And we gotta nurture them and take care of them.
Yeah, for sure. Because without them, we got nothing. We got to work with teams, and we can't do it all by ourselves.
Right.
So what's keeping you busy? Are you doing consulting now?
Yes. So my focus on is Koboldt Consulting, which is sort of two pillars. One is focused on lean lean consulting for, smaller companies, $1 to $15 million, largely manufacturing or distribution, where I can take my Lean Six Sigma skills and methodologies to help improve process, ultimately drive profitability is what it's all about. The other pillar is focused on career coaching and career navigation. So resume writing, interview preparation, personal branding as it relates to a focus on LinkedIn, etc. And that's largely where the bulk of my energy is now, right now, is focused on building a whole coaching program around the career coaching stuff. So I'll have a set of assets, people can take some training, or they can hire me for, a la carte system or a package system that they
Right,
want to
right.
focus on.
Now, how is the job market, and is your career coaching focusing on maybe university graduates? And the reason I ask is because I have 4 children. I have 2 graduating, all 4 in college. 2 are graduating this year.
Oh, wow.
And different career paths, but
Yeah.
one of them is like, hey, you know what? I'm looking for a job and it's very difficult. Companies aren't hiring, and he's trying to get into the real estate industry, which is an industry that's been struggling for the last 2 or 3 years because of the economics, high interest rates, things like that. So business has been slow. Projects aren't turning and coming to market. So which is your focus, or is it somebody who's maybe switching jobs, maybe changing careers? I mean, there's all kinds of
Yeah. There's a lot
sections.
of different areas that I can cover, but my sort of focused, more targeted niche is that mid-career professional, 10 to 15 years.
Mhm.
I usually like to, because I have an MBA from Pepperdine, so I like to work with a lot of MBAs. I find that a lot of times they've got the MBA, they've been in the business world for a number of years, but then they're like, okay, where do I go next? How do I navigate to that next role? Or, hey, I want to be a director, I want to get to a VP level, or I want to become a C level. How do I achieve that? What do I need to do?
Mhm.
Doesn't, now of course I can, help the fresh graduate as well, or I can help the
Right.
60, 70-year old who's like, hey, I still want to work. I don't want to retire. I can't afford to retire.
Yeah.
And so all encompassing.
No, that's awesome. Now, are you seeing jobs are difficult to find in general? And then one of the bottlenecks that I hear from my children, and I hear them from other people too, is that when people submit their resumes now, they get AI scanned. And if they're not written perfect, they get spit out and nobody ever sees it.
Yeah, so the challenge is, and you'll hear the term ATS, the applicant tracking system. So the ATS is really just a digital filing cabinet. And so information goes in, it gets stored, and then somebody, a human being, retrieves that information. And where people get into trouble with ATS is not having a resume that's properly formatted. So, for example, if you're using big block um, boxes with content inside it, that is largely not going to come in. It's going to get scrambled. Or sometimes people default because they can't afford a resume writer or don't use Word. They go to canva.com, for example, and they write these resumes that are all but like in like smaller box format. And again, that's just junk in and junk out. So nothing really gets transferred into the ATS system. And
Mhm.
the beauty of the ATS system is that a recruiter, hiring manager, whoever is using that system can then say, hey, I want for example, I'm looking at project managers and I want a project manager who has who's Scrum Master certified, right? So they're looking for that keyword of Scrum, or I need somebody who has Agile experience. So they're looking at the keyword of Agile. And so they're pulling up that, and then it gives them a list of, okay, now I've got, the 300 people that are in my ATS, 3 of those are qualified. Maybe I'll bring those in for an interview.
Wow, that makes it kind of difficult. If,
Right,
if if you're really good in the profession and you're just not a good resume writer,
right.
maybe because you don't switch jobs that often and you stay on your jobs long term.
Right. It's a big problem for a lot of people, right? A lot of people are great at what they do. They just don't
Yeah.
understand the modern day mechanics of writing a resume, how to optimize their LinkedIn profile to be found, and the networking and everything else that goes with it. Now, you brought up AI. So AI, what's happening is um, you're not going to hear a lot of HR. A lot of companies aren't using AI the way that we think they are. A lot of people think, oh, these AI robots are just scanning and immediately weeding people out. Most
Mhm.
companies don't have that level of software yet.
Mhm.
Some do, where there are some triggers, right? So the job requires 7 years experience and you only have 5. Well, boom, not going to be a match, right? So there's
Right.
red flag, right? So there's all those type of little things that are happening in the back end, which is only going to get more challenging. And on the flip side, right now, is you have every person who thinks, oh, I can just go to ChatGPT or Claude or Perplex, wherever, and just have AI write my resume. The challenge is that it just becomes wordsmithed. And so when you get to that interview, the problem is that it doesn't sound natural to who you are, right? And a
Right.
good, intelligent, thoughtful leader is going to sift through that immediately and go, whoa, this just isn't jiving. This isn't matching. Clearly, they wrote this with ChatGPT,
Right.
right? So those are some challenges for sure. And it is a very, very brutal market right now. I will have to say that this is by far the worst that I've ever seen it in all of my career. It is very, very challenging.
Is that because of the gatekeepers, one, or is it because, we're getting tariffs, we're getting, everybody's spooked right now and doesn't know which way things are going to turn. So is everybody cutting back on jobs also and just kind of bunkering down?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a myriad of things, right? So pandemic, go back to the pandemic, over hiring, right? Now going, oh, we have too many people. You have industry and market fluctuations that, right? Everything has an industry cycle, it goes up and down. You have the rise of AI and automation and technology. It's weeding people out. You have the risk of tariffs, right? And I mean, not the risk, I mean, we are seeing it right now.
Right,
So
right. They're
these are
here.
all legit fears where, and
Yeah.
crazy enough, like literally in the last 2 weeks, I've seen more people who had potential jobs ready to sign the paperwork, and the company said, "Sorry, we can't do it now. We have to hold off until sort of the tariff stuff unfolds here, and we figure things out." Um, Now, I feel that this is probably a new paradigm, right, that we're living in. This is the new world that we need to adjust to, where there likely just won't be as many jobs. It's just it's just the way things are working out. Where companies, especially the large tech companies, are already saying, I saw one the other day with HubSpot, I think it was, who's like, hey, before we hire any new employees, you have to go through all this criteria and go, what can AI do so that we don't have to hire that person, basically. And so they've got people's mindsets thinking, hi, how can I do the work of 10 people now? And, it won't be long before every other company is going to be having to think like that. I think in the next, I don't have a magic ball, but I would say definitely in the next 5, 7, 10 years, the world is going to look drastically, drastically different. And we've got to be prepared for it.
Right, right. And the little bit that I know that I've seen about AI, you can build these AI automations that can take 10 people out, 20
Yes.
people out, or entire units out,
Yep.
literally.
Yep.
So then it almost seems to be, and I'm not a predictor, but maybe people should shift careers into AI automation, AI, really just getting their hands dirty with that and becoming experts in that, because if the industry is moving in that direction, and that's something that can be used probably across different industries,
Yep.
why not become an expert in it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I encourage literally every client that I get, I encourage them to say, hey, here's some free classes. You can go to edx.org. You can take classes from Harvard, MIT to wherever, right? Go take those free classes. There's AI platforms, Simple Academy, Simple AI. There's just a host of things. Go take as many certifications, learn as much as you can, but you got to be curious. We are in the world where you have got to be AI curious. You've got to be thinking about how can I do this easier? How can we do this with less money? I hate to say with less people, but that's unfortunately that's where we're heading. So
So
yeah,
now a twist to that theory, though, is that if if our administration is successful in reshoring, bringing jobs back, perhaps it's like the perfect timing for that. That if people are going to utilize AI to basically thin the workforce, you have this workforce that's available and willing to work,
Mhm.
can go back and kind of man up those type of operations that are maybe coming back into our country.
I sure hope so. Again,
Right,
no crystal ball here. I truly hope that we do get more local sourcing, local manufacturing. I hope
right,
that,
right.
America can thrive the way that it did a number of years ago. Um, Sorry, motorcycle drove by super loud.
Uh,
Sorry. Yeah, I mean, I truly do, and I think again, people just need to be thinking about how will AI be used right? But we've all got to be thinking about efficiency. I mean, profitability at the end of the day, when you think strategy in business, right? It's all about long-term profitability. And so
Mhm.
how do we weather those cycles of and those ups and downs? How do we get ahead of the curve so that we've got the cash flow to help us navigate those downtimes, right?
Right, right.
You know, we just, again, it's a different world. I mean, look at Fortune 100, Fortune 500 companies that used to survive 60, 80 years. They're lucky to survive 30 years, 20 years now, right? So
Oh, yeah,
it's global, it's complex, it's ever changing, right?
yeah.
These are tough times to, you know, navigate.
Yes, you got to stay mean and lean basically in order to be able to
Yeah.
survive and be able to shift because everything's shifting so fast.
Yeah,
Now,
absolutely.
as you work with people, um, the concept of work from home, how is that affecting the the workforce? Do the employers and do the resumes? Because there's some employees that say, hey, I want a hybrid or I want to work from home. I don't want to go back in the office. How does that affect what they put on their resume and their ability to find a job?
Yeah, so I always, you know, at the top of the resume, I always have people put their city, state, and zip, and then put in parentheses, for example, open to hybrid, remote, in office,
Mhm.
right? Make that
Right.
easy and digestible right away.
Mhm.
I will say this, I find that most people are getting hybrid opportunities right now, which is great. You know, we kind of during pandemic, we saw a lot of people shift to being remote, and now
Right.
we've got this course correction where everybody thinks, oh, we got to have them back in the building.
Right.
I've worked largely remote for 10 years myself and can do it pretty damn good. So,
Right.
I,
Right. Right.
you know, the proof is there that, you know, people, you know, but it takes an enormous amount of discipline, of course. But yeah, for folks to identify that right away will help them, you know, it makes it easier for the recruiters and the hiring managers to know exactly what you're open and what you're not open to. So make that crystal clear. But at the end of the day,
I
if you want to work remote, you know, then it's tougher than ever, right? Because there's
right.
less remote positions. But if that's what you truly want to do, go for it. You know, it's
Right.
all about value proposition and positioning yourself, you know, and making it crystal clear on exactly the direction that you want to go. You need to have that direction defined, you know, sort of your North Star of the direction you want to go.
Mhm.
Rally your confidence around that, make sure your confidence is secured, and then have a great job winning resume, right? Um,
Right.
you know, most people fail when we talk about resumes. Most people fail in the top one third of the resume. It's, hey, I'm a results driven professional. Well, everybody's results driven. I'm this. Well, everybody's that. Those are table stakes, right? What
Right.
makes you unique and different than everybody else,
Right. Right. Right.
right? So it's all about differentiation. It's all about branding, the art of differentiation.
Right. No, that makes sense. And I would imagine that gets filtered through AI easily. Like, okay, that's not significant. That doesn't add value to our company. And maybe that's why going to someone like yourself that can help and coach that resume writing. You can't just get it all from Google or YouTube.
No.
It just doesn't seem to work like that anymore.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. In fact, you know, I'm using AI not to write resumes. I have about 20 pages of prompt engineering that I've done,
Mhm.
where I can run a whole formula. So I take 5 job descriptions. They give me 5 job descriptions. I take their current resume and I run through this analysis using intelligence, and it creates about 35 pages of output. And all that does is create a stepping stone, these building blocks for people to kind of work backwards and say, okay, what are the needs? What is these job descriptions really telling me that I need? Right. And the
Right.
truth is, most job descriptions are terrible. Most companies do not write good job descriptions. So you've got to be able to weed out, like, you know, like what's really not needed, and then what is sort of implied here, right? What's between the lines that I need to understand and navigate. And then from there, it gives them, so it gives them that, and then it gives them the foundation. Okay, what are the top 20 skills and why are these important to this role? And then it sort of looks at the resume and says, okay, here's where you fit in some of these buckets. Here's where you need to improve. Here's some of the language that you could improve. Another resume mistake is simply not quantifying good, strong results. Somebody might say, yeah, I improved this process 15%. Well, what does that mean in context? 15% means what? What's the X to the Y, right?
Right.
What was the dollar impact, right? Not enough people understand a profit and loss, income statement, P&L, right? They just don't get it. I
Mm-mm.
encourage everybody, all my clients, to understand that fundamentally. So when you come in, and this is going to sound capitalistic, but it's the truth. It's like people are paying
Right.
you to
Yeah.
solve problems, drive results, and make them money. How do you make them money? How do you understand what you did and that bullet point that affects the P&L, right?
Mhm.
And so I
Yeah.
coach them. And again, the intelligence helps them understand the formula that's being used here and coaches and guides them, of course. And then I sit down with them and we go through all of this. But all these are stepping stones that they truly understand the value of who they are. And then
Mhm.
again, with crystal clear clarity, this is the direction I'm now going. I've got this new
Right.
confidence. Doesn't matter how I present it, I know who I am. And where this
Right.
pays the most dividends is the interview, because that's where unfortunately most people fail as well. If you get the resume in, you get the job opportunity, most people unfortunately are ill prepared for interviewing. And you've got one chance. This market is brutal. I remind clients all the time, you've got one chance. You got to come in out of the gates just owning it. And so
Right.
it takes
Now,
time.
do you help coach them for the interview as well? Because that's, like you said, you get one chance. If they give you the opportunity, that's it. And you
Yeah.
have a lot of competition, so you have to be the best.
Yeah, I do a lot of analysis. I'll give you a recent example of a guy. He had two interviews with one company. He made it through the first round, was going to the next two, and then finally would be the true hiring manager, who's senior vice president. And so I got some context of what he was going over in the first conversation, what the job description looked like, and then I scrubbed the web trying to understand who are these people he's interviewing with. So largely on LinkedIn, I could scrub and I would look in and say, okay, here's all their comments that they've left. What does that tell me about their personality? What type of engagement are they having? Right? Are they cold and
Right.
calculated, or are they fun and right and
Right.
engaged? You know, one
Yeah.
one
Yeah.
was super grateful, always thanking people. Oh, it's so wonderful to work for you. The other one, not so much. And so
Right.
what this did though is gave me a profile to understand so how we would frame those answers to the core questions that were going to be asked, as well as
Mhm.
what level of understanding and depth of knowledge on a technical side did these two different people have. So all of that, we work together and then we write our interview scripts. I use a challenge, actions, and result format. Card format to behavioral based type questions, similar to a star format or a SOAR. And
Yeah.
what we do is we coach them, to trunculate that down to 1 to 2 minutes tops. So they come
Right.
in confident, they're not they're not umming, they're not using crutch
Right.
words.
Right. Yeah.
They've got good vocal tonality and inflection, and they get super, show their enthusiasm and
Right.
excitement,
Right.
right?
Right. Yeah. Confidence. Yeah. I could do this.
Right.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Now, how about taking one step back and you mentioned that most job descriptions maybe aren't clear and well written. What can an employer do to be able to facilitate finding that person that they want to be able to write accurate and clear and concise job descriptions?
Yeah, so I think there's a plethora of things that they could choose from, and probably should include all of them, right? But walk a candidate through, what does the normal day look like? What does the
Mhm,
culture look like?
mhm,
Who does this role report to?
mhm,
What are the KPIs that this individual will be responsible for managing? And why is that important to the strategic direction of the company? Why are those the core ones to focus on?
mhm.
I think all of that encapsulated and, quite honestly, a good job description should be about 2 to 3 pages. It should give enough context for an individual to understand. And the beauty of getting that done and right up front is that now you're not, it's helping the company with their own efficiency, because now they're not getting a bunch of people who aren't qualified, who maybe now don't resonate with that type of role, to be applying, which is another problem, is that everybody's just applying blindly right now because they just
Right.
think, okay, I gotta apply to 1,000 jobs because hopefully law of averages here, I'll land one or two, for an interview. We gotta weed those things out. Companies need to weed those things out, right?
Yeah, yeah. No, it's funny you said that. I just spoke to one of my boys yesterday. He says one of his friends applied. He says, I've applied for over 1,000 jobs and I only got 5 interviews. That he says that could be a couple things. Maybe his resume isn't well prepared to be able to increase his ability to interview. And if you got 5 interviews, maybe he wasn't well prepared because you got 5 shots and you failed in all of them. Like it's like scary. Like you're coming out
Yeah,
of college and you have nowhere to go.
yeah,
Um, what do you do?
yeah. That's tough. I would say the unfortunate thing is right now there's so much information out there and there's a lot of bad information on the direction and things, right? So I always say surround yourself with people who've done it and listen to the people who've done it well for their clients, right? And then there's,
Right.
you know, I'm not the only one. There's some really great career coaches and resume writers, et cetera, out there. But take all that good information, and when the herd is going left, you go right. Do the opposite.
Right.
If everybody's going that direction, you got to do, again, it's branding, it's the art of
Right.
differentiation. So do the opposite. You know, I think some of the strategy too, again, using AI, like something that I do not see enough people doing is taking the amazing AI video platforms um, and making cool videos, right? So you could literally just like record yourself right now doing your script, but then creating all these visuals with AI behind it. So it's like this dopamine hit, right? It's like a
Yeah.
movie
Yeah.
trailer.
Yeah.
And that's what you need to capture people's attention. It needs to be something that's different. Also, something that I've encouraged some of my clients to do is just be bold. I say, you know what? Got your resume, we got your LinkedIn, but now let's put together a little 3-page, 3 to 5 slide deck um, beyond the resume, right? That's
Mhm.
focused specifically on the company that you're targeting. And let's put that in a FedEx package and let's mail that directly to the C-level staff. Bypass HR,
Yeah.
bypass everybody. And you know what? You might tick off a few people, but you know what? I think some at that level will be like, ooh, this person's bold. I appreciate that and I value that. And I'll at least have a conversation. I had one girl in particular, not a client of mine. She's just somebody that God put in my heart to go help her because she's been struggling for 2 years.
Mhm.
And we recorded a recent video about this, but she, you know, she's a transportation fleet management. She's been struggling for 2 years, as I said. And she found this company in California that's doing logistics with AI, really advanced technology, really amazing stuff. She's like, "Oh my God, I resonate with this." I said, "Great, let's get you on the phone with the COO right now."
Yeah.
What? Give him a call.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
she
Yeah.
applied. She didn't call him, but she emailed. And thankfully, he responded on a Saturday, said, "Oh, you know what? We saw your resume come through. Helen gave it to me. We're going to interview you next week." She didn't get the
Wait.
job, but it doesn't matter because it gave her confidence like, oh, I can break the mold here of tradition. I can
Yeah.
put myself, forward here and I know my value now, right? And so like you just got to do things that are different.
Yeah. No, that's like, I mean, I would have never thought of anything like that. That's so amazing but yeah, you're doing something out of the box,
Right.
different, right? That's when you get attention. And then hopefully if you get the opportunity to interview, you can hit it home there. If
Right.
not, then it builds that confidence so that you can get it the next time, hopefully.
Yeah. Yeah. And another thing is just taking advantage of being on LinkedIn. You know, every day you should, people are going to judge you. They're going to come to your profile, hiring managers, recruiters, and they're going to say, okay, is this person the thought leader in their space? Are they engaged with the community in this
Mhm.
industry? What's happening? And so put out content three times minimally a week, but I would encourage 5, 6. Like you
Right.
want people
Right.
to sort of, it's like when you walk into the room, you want somebody to know your name, right? You don't need
Correct.
to introduce yourself. You
Right.
already want them to know yourself. So from
Right.
like a sales side, it's like a pre-buy experience, right? Somebody finally gets
Right.
the resume, like, oh, I've been following you for a year now. I love your content, right? It's like
Right.
that kind of
Right.
conversation that needs to happen.
Yeah. No, no, for sure. That's important. Be active and have good, thoughtful posts on there. 100%. Now, Geoff, before we go, I do have to ask you, tell us about the guitars behind you.
Yeah, so I got a few guitars. Got my Paul Reed Smith back there. Great guitar. Ovation is the red acoustic one, and yeah, I was a musician. I've been playing guitar for a number of years. I was in a band that did around 100 shows a year around Michigan in the Midwest,
Mhm.
and I just had a great time. Just love music. Music is it's the gateway to the soul, and so I love playing guitar. Love listening to music. I'm fortunate that my father opened up my eyes to just a ton of different music. My sister. 80s child, so I grew up with all the 80s music, and The Cure
Right.
back there is my favorite band, so from the 80s.
Uh-huh.
So still to this day, my favorite band, but yeah, music.
Nice, nice. And then before we started the show, you told me you had an electronic drum set behind you. Your son's
Yes.
playing. How
Yep.
is that? Is he gonna play? You guys gonna make a little band? How's that
Yeah,
working?
we originally had the regular drum kit, but it was very loud. Obviously, went through drum lessons. And then I said, okay, let's make this a little quieter. Got in that. So he's playing not as much as he did like last year, but yeah, the
Uh-huh.
first time when we actually locked in 4/4 timing, he held the beat, and I'm playing the rhythm with him. It was like just one of those father-son moments where I was just
Yeah,
I wanted to tear up. It was so beautiful to
yeah.
experience that, And so hopefully, one day we'll we could do a band if that's what he chooses. Right now he's into baseball. Last year was all basketball, but
Right,
yeah,
right. Yeah, they switch around, but yes, it is important to create these activities with your kids, to be able to bond. And then as they get older, they're always going to say, "Remember when we did this, and remember when we did that." Those are the cool things that you got to create with the memories.
yeah.
That's awesome. So now we're in the first quarter of 2025. What exciting plans do you have for the rest of the year?
Yeah, great question. So like I said, I'm building out um, this set of training modules. I've been working on the AI, the prompt engineering side. So I've tested that out with 10 unemployed people. Feedback was stellar. One of the guys landed a new job at Deloitte. Super exciting. So really it's just growing this business. But I'm really excited about where AI will be used because I think that's going to give me a leg up amongst the competitors that I'm competing with right now, right? So
Right.
I'm
Yeah, yeah.
excited to help people, land their new job and elevate their livelihood and their careers. That's what gives me joy.
Yes, yes. Well, Geoff, thanks so much for sharing your tips and your insights on what you do and how you can help potential job seekers you land that dream job potentially. If somebody's listening to us and they want to get a hold of you, how could they do that?
Yeah, two ways. First one is my website, koboldt.com. That's KOBOLDT.com. And the other is just to find me, Geoff Koboldt, on LinkedIn. And so I give away a ton of free information. So please follow or connect with me. Happy to help out.
Very good. Thanks so much, Geoff, once again for coming on. And to our listeners, please go to ocpowerplayers.com and follow us on your favorite channel. Thanks so much, Geoff.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Orange County Power Players. Want to share your success story? Apply to be a guest at ocpowerplayers.com/guest.